Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm James Rogers, and welcome to the Zone. Today, I want to talk to everybody about, I don't know, various different things, I guess. A bit about my background. Some people out there that know me have wondered why, for example, I switched from one name originally known for a few years now as Alexander Poirot over to James Rogers. Well, I'll get to that one first, I guess, and sum it up as quickly as possible. Initially, I started out born in Belfast, Northern Ireland, UK. That's the United Kingdom of Great Britain for anybody out there who isn't familiar with the term UK. Uh, Not that many aren't, but in any case, I started out, I was born in Belfast as a little boy named John, given up or raised in an orphanage to be adopted out at age 4. A lady and gentleman by the name of Alice and James Rogers. Originally, I guess she was Alice McCann was my mother's maiden name. In any case, they were married in Belfast or in Ireland somewhere decades ago. They couldn't have children or whatever. As an older couple in their 40s, they adopted me at age 4. I resided with them for the first 2 years under my birth name, I guess it was, John, upon completion of my adoption in 1967, 2 years later, approximately 2 years later, after being placed with them for the 2-year period. I legally, from that day forward, was their son, and of course, given the name Rogers, but at the same time, they felt it necessary, I guess, to change my name legally on my identification over to James Jr., like James Rogers, my father's name, my adopted father's name, became my name from that day forward. Although legally, or whatever you want to call it, everybody still insisted upon calling me John. Authorities, schools, classmates, and so forth. Everyone was, familiar with the name John. In any case, at age 13, when I went to go catch the bus to school in the morning, as so many kids out there do, I went down the bus stop to meet up with my buddy, Thomas. And Thomas and I, used to catch the bus at this bus stop together on Falls Road all the time to head to school because we both went to they classify as special needs school. Here in Canada, for example, they refer to it as going to a, say, public school or a high school or whatever you want to call it, whatever level of education it is, as a special education class. Myself, for example, as a child, I grew up with tubes in my ear, tube implants, over in Ireland. So my hearing was impaired, and I was what they call behind in my reading comprehension level. For example, in grade 9 in high school, near the end of grade 9, I was evaluated and found to be approximately at grade 5 or 6 level of reading, my comprehension of reading. Now, today, as a grown man, now 58 years old, I'm far surpassed that. I'm what they classify now as university level of reading comprehension with the English language, and not far behind it with at least some minor French, a few words Spanish, whatever. But my primary language, of course, being English, because that's what I was growing up as. Somebody, of course, took me from this bus stop on Falls Road when I was 13. I was drugged, abused, physically, emotionally, and every other sense of the word as well. And then while being drugged, I remember coming to, passing out. If you've ever yourself, say as an older person, endured surgery, such as myself, then You would know what I'm talking about when you're under a general anesthesia, or when you're under anesthesia. While you're in a recovery room, you drift in and out of consciousness type thing. I was like that. I remember faces of officials. When I say officials, I'm talking about members of parliament in the UK, even for that matter, as high up as, I don't want to say the royal name, but uh, you know, that type of thing. Law officials, like your high-ranking police officers, high-ranking IRA members, Irish Republican Army, for those wondering what that is. Uh, High-ranking military, British military personnel, and so forth. You know, phenomenal. And but I'm not going to go into any detail on that or name those individuals. Although, yes, I have full memory back, and I could name those people, but I won't. Nor would I discuss what it's to do with, other than to say two things. In the UK in 1974, which is when I was 13, the kids over there were in severe, not hot water, but they had to keep a close, watchful eye out. They didn't get into hot water. That was the height of the IRA bombings in Belfast, uh, which of course was the Irish and the English feuding, like the British government, trying to take over Belfast. Belfast trying to be led by the, what do you call it, the Republic of Ireland sort of thing, and they wanted to keep one and the other. Finally, they separated to two different countries. And of course, now from my understanding is that Southern Ireland, which is the Republican Army area where the Irish Republic is, or the Republic of Ireland, wants to join with the rest of the UK now, apparently. And Belfast, of course, is owned by the UK, which, of course, is this flag here. United Kingdom of Great Britain is this flag, which is known as the Union Jack. And then this flag, of course, is known as Northern Ireland, which, of course, I have a miniature one here on the desk as well, which is what this looks like right here. That's for Ireland. Northern Ireland, Belfast in particular, is why I have it on my desk. It's my home. It took me a number of years to get my memories back. On around, say, I'm going to say 2000, 2001 was when I firstly clued in. I used to work as a paralegal in the courthouse here with the London Middlesex County Courts as a freelance paralegal representing clients on a quid pro quo basis, which is free of charge. I don't know how many times I was asked by a judge, where are you from? Where are you from? Where's your accent from? Where's it from? And I always thought, East Coast here as a kid growing up, because the people who raised me in this country that said I was their kid, which I wasn't, DNA has since proved, they're from Nova Scotia. And one of the judges in particular in the courts that I used to stand before representing clients, he said, no, you're from this county. He said, no, my in-laws are from that same town. I went, really? Lo and behold, he said, no, your accent's not from that. It's not from the west coast of Nova Scotia. So, no, it just can't be. So, but the gist of it is, how do I put it? I ended up in Canada, being raised by a Canadian military family. So that's kind of a hush-hush thing as well. I've been hush-hush-hushed by military both from that end in the UK and from this end. The Canadian military man, of course, used to work for NORAD Canada, which was out of CFB North Bay, which is in the tunnel underneath the mountain, a couple of miles down type thing. He was an administrative clerk. Military personnel, rank, and so forth. They're not supposed to disclose certain things. That's a top secret facility. They're sworn to the Secrecy, National Secrecies Act, and so forth. And There were times as a teenager growing up in their care that I'd ask questions, and he'd say, "Well, I'm not supposed to tell you, but if I tell you this, he broke protocol left, right, and center." So, yeah, I know I started putting things together in my own head, watching videos on YouTube. There's a few on there in particular that you would find extremely interesting, which is the MK Ultra Mind Control Project. The Americans, to do with CIA doing LSD trips and so forth and testing on different people, they used to use what they call it, um, electronic cattle prods and so forth, which is a two-prong, taser thing, stick that they poke you. And of course, I myself have little white polka dots here and here and here and here, all over my chest in general, which is cattle prod marks. They've been spotted by me, asked to a physician. The physician said they could be, but he couldn't offer any other alternative as to how come if you take cattle prods and you space them, however far apart they are, all the dots are the exact same proportion around, no matter how you move the dots. They equal to two to two to two. They're not like one's like this and the other's like that or like this, you know what I mean? They're the exact same width. So it's the cattle prod marks, and I remember the fact of being cattle prodded in the chest with electronic taser type thing. When I watched the documentaries, it said that the electronic prods was to, if they wanted you to forget something that happened moments ago, what they would do, tase you. That tase would delete your short-term memory. Just like on a computer, if you want to delete a portion of the hard drive. Well, electronic tasing would be the exact same thing as holding a magnet to your hard drive on your computer. The taser would be the electronic, say, magnet to your short-term memory and fry it. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's extensive that way. Finally, after years and years and years of concentration of remembering, over years, it took me years, I mean a good 10 years to remember enough details, I finally remembered not only my name, but I also remembered my home address. Some people would say, you got that off the net. Okay, but here's one for you, 02458. That's 02458. That was my old Belfast phone number from when I was 13 years old. It wasn't posted anywhere. My parents hadn't had that phone number for decades. They're both deceased. Mom died in 2002. Dad, I believe, I could be wrong because I can't remember, from reading newspapers. I believe Dad's was approximately 4 years after I disappeared, so that would be 1978, I'm going to say. Or if it wasn't, then it's the reverse of the numbers. But I think it was 78. Could be 87, I suppose, but 78. They're both buried in Portaferry, Northern Ireland, which is just on the outskirts of Belfast. It's a fishing village on the outside of Belfast. Mom's originally from Kikiel, Northern Ireland. Dad was from Portaferry, but they're both buried behind St. Patrick's Church in Portaferry. In, I'm going to say Ballyvale or something like that, graveyard, right directly behind. It's the name of the graveyard directly behind St. Patrick's. Neither one of my parents had middle names. They never felt the need to give me one. I sent off knowing every detail of vital statistics, which nobody seems to know that still. I even volunteered, as I say, my old home phone number of 02458. Blew them away. They said, oh my God, you nailed it. I said, at first I kept putting John. They finally asked me, they said, okay, well, listen, you're John, but we don't shout as John. Yeah, it's a J. Rogers, but I said, I'm sorry. I said, let me be more blunt. I said, my father's name on his birth certificate said James Rogers, but he went by Jim or Jimmy to everybody. Kids would call him Uncle Jimmy, brothers would call him Jim or whatever, his work partners or whatever, because he did a general labor job. He was a laborer by trade. Um, he would sit there and, you know, any case, my parents explained it to me as, yeah, my name was John at birth. For the first 2 years I lived with them, I was 4 years old to 6 years old, means they didn't want to confuse the hell out of a 4-year-old by readdressing his name. So they let me keep John as a nickname, and they kept calling me John because everybody got used to it, including them. But in the meantime, they had filed to have my name changed to James from the adoption date forward. My mother had sat me down. It was a Monday, if memory recollects. I believe it was the first of the week, right after school, to tell me, oh, by the way, son, it's finalized. You're a Rogers today. And I remember she smoked like a champ. My mother was what do you call it? Not just a smoker, habitual smoker, like light one right off the other, heavy on the smoking. Uh, I remember she smoked Rothman cigarettes. That was her brand of cigarette. My dad, I remember him, and my mother. They were both, I don't remember dad's exact age, but I know mom was, I think I'm going to say 44 or 45 when they first had me placed in their care. She was like entering mid 40s in there. I mean, so I don't know, but yeah, it's well worth it. All these details came. I won't say flooding back because I started working, like I said, 2000, 2001 on it. And then 2008, I had the majority of it. And then finally, my vital statistic, per se, the James thing, clued in. I'll say maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And this past January, I finally sent off to the UK online. I said, here's my adoption information. I gave them everything, including my old home phone number of 02458. And lo and behold, I now have my adoption certificate. So that's how it came about. I legally changed my name in this country to change everything over to that name, even though my ID here is Canadian still. But I've changed it over to that. I've spoken to the UK. They've essentially told me when and if I get off my behind and come over there to the UK, I can go in locally and file to pick up my photo ID card, my national insurance card, my passport, all of that stuff. So the British government has accepted, in fact, that I am him. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which is the federal police here in this country, we just refer to them as RCMP, but it stands for Royal Canadian Mounted Police. At my request 3 years ago, started an investigation. They have spoken to the Canadian dad. He lied through his teeth, ignored questions like the broken collarbone I have here from childhood. An x-ray shows it was broken. He said, no, not under his watch. His kid never had no breaks. The Port Weinstein birthmark I have around my throat here, which in this extremely well lit up screen, it doesn't really show that much, but I don't know if anybody can see the dark patch right here. And it goes up and around here. There's a dark reddish shade thing, almost like a sunburn with a, right there is white. But the rest of it's red. It's called Port Weinstein. It's a birthmark from there. In any case, these medical things point out the proof that match to the Irish kid. So the government over there issued all the stuff. Belfast police said, no, we don't think so. But the Belfast government is the one sent my papers from the courthouse saying, yes, I am him. So I've proven it, even though the RCMP aren't necessarily aware of it or proved it yet themselves. So essentially, sometime within the next 6 to 8 months, I plan on going to the UK, if not sooner, since I have the funds available. I'm going to the UK to get the rest of my ID, then coming back here and filing for what they call Canadian citizenship after being here 45 years. This month, November 26, 1974, is the day I vanished from school, on the way to school. November 27th, my parents were told by police that they had to wait 24 hours to file. So 27th of November is the day they filed, but the 26th is the day I vanished. I hope that this has pretty much summed it up as to why the name from that to this. But James Rogers is my legal name. James Rogers will always be my legal name. I'll never, ever in my life change it again. When I get my other ID from Ireland, I will still be James Rogers. I was born November 21st. Or sorry. I'm tongue tied. I'm missing November 26th. I was born May 21st, 1961. Like I said, November 26th, we went missing. November 27th, police report. But my birthday is May 21st, 1961. For those who are curious, I'm what you classified as a Gemini. All my childhood that I grew up here in Canada, if you look back through my history, you say, yeah, my color chart, everything that I like, it's all Gemini. Everything matches up to be Gemini. My birthstone's green, the whole bit. But I don't know. Yeah, it's been a fascinating case. In the process, my accent's been identified by the police as Belfast by specialists. They did a voice analysis stress test, which is a form of lie detection. They said I passed it with flying colours. All of that. So there's absolutely no room for doubt. That's exactly who I am. DNA test was done through Ancestry.com at my request. Not one person of the Canadian family matches up to be my family. And I had a sister in this country and aunts from the mother's side that are on DNA on chart. They don't show up to match me. So that's the irony. But yeah, I kind of figured that should sum it up for people. Listen, next time we're liable to talk a little more on the conspiracy end of it. I'm thinking that's what the next show is going to be about, the conspiracy end of it. I did mention MK Ultra mind control. There's more detail behind that you'll find interesting. Maybe we'll discuss that next time, including the little men in black, so to speak, that follow me around and have my phones and internet bug. So until next time, I'm James Rogers, and this has been another show of the new one called The Zone. Talk to you later.